Hi everyone. Today I'm going to analyze a game that was submitted a long time ago, around a month ago, against these two players. So let's get right into it. E4, E4, C6, the Caro-Kann defense, C4. I don't really know what this is called, but yeah, D5, then E takes D5, then D4. I actually used to play this a lot, except in a different move order. Which is, let me show you that move order, which I used to play it in. So e4, c6, d4, d5, then take, then c4. But they all lead to the same thing, so, yeah. And then knight c6, then c5. The reason c5 isn't a good move is because black can go e5, attacking the base of the pawn chain, and it's going to be super hard to defend it since this pawn is a backwards pawn. And black can also go b6, and b4 isn't possible at this point. No, that's why c5 isn't a good move. So black went e5, doing what he's supposed to, and bishop b5 is not a bad move because it defends the pawn. Because if black takes the d4 pawn, then we can just take back with our queen. So it's not a bad move. And now knight e7. Knight e7 isn't that much of a good move, even though it still is a decent move because it does defend this knight. But a better move would be the natural square, which is f6. But anyways, knight f3 and bishop g4, pinning the knight to the queen. Now bishop g5. Bishop g5 isn't that good of a move because black can just go f6, which he did. And now bishop e3, defending this pawn chain a bit because we need to defend it, otherwise all our pawns are going to get cooked. Now e4, putting pressure on the knight. It's a concept called put pressure on the pin piece, also known as PP on the PP. But anyways, black's only move to save his piece was to go h3, counterattacking the bishop. And now black took the knight, white took the bishop, and black took that free pawn. And white went rook g1, which was the only good move in this position. Otherwise, black would have promoted to a queen. And now a6, attacking the bishop. Bishop a4 and b5. Now a6 is a good move because this bishop is annoying you. And bishop a4 and b5. The reason b5 isn't that good of a move is because white can just en passant, even though en passant isn't the best move in my opinion, because black can get the queen out, but it still does add some pressure to this knight. So yeah. And now black took the free pawn, and queen takes b2 happened. And now a blunder happened, which is knight c3. And just blundering the knight. A better move would have been knight to d2, because the knight's defended and it still defends the rook. But white probably didn't spot that, so knight c3. Knight c3 is a natural move that a low-rated player would play, trying to defend the rook. Now queen takes knight check. Okay, king f1. King f1 is actually a logical move because if white went bishop to d2, then black could have just taken this pawn and kept on attacking the king. So king f1, and now queen c4 check, king g1, hiding the king in the corner, also known as castling by hand. And now g5. And the reason g5 isn't a good move is because if you go g5, then once you try to go f5, then this pawn is hanging, and you can't attack the king because of this rook. It's protecting the king super nicely. So instead of going g5, you should just go f5 straight away. But yeah, okay. And now rook c1 attacking the queen and winning a tempo. Queen takes a2, the only move to save the queen. And now rook takes knight, sacrificing the rook, aka also known as Gotham chess. But rook takes knight is actually not a bad move, because after knight takes rook, white has bishop takes knight check. The king has to move, and we also win our rook back. So it's a super good move. If you played bishop takes knight, then black could have just taken back. And even though we'd win a knight, black would still be up 2 points of material, and the king wouldn't have moved. But that's why rook takes c6 is much better. And now bishop g7, developing the bishop. And black is going for f5 sort of things. If I were black, I'd go for f5 to activate this bishop, because this bishop isn't doing anything right now. And f4, now queen c4, bringing the queen back to the center of the board. Rook c2 attacking the queen, queen b5. Now rook c5 attacking the queen even more, and queen d7. Now f takes g5, takes back, bishop, check, then bishop blocks. Bishop takes d5 check is a good move, and king g7, and rook c6. And now black played rook f8, and queen e4, which is all good, and a5, rook b6, king h6, bringing the king to the corner. I wouldn't recommend you to bring the king to the corner, because it just makes things easier. It just makes it easier for white to checkmate you. So I always follow this advice, which Gotham chess said: if you're losing, run the king up to the middle of the board. But king h6 happened, and now queen e6 trading queens. Trading queens is also fine because you're up in material, so you can still win this. But there are actually two options. You can also keep on attacking the king, which would be a bit harder. So yeah, I'd also play queen e6 in this position. Now black trades the queens. Now a4. Black is just trying to push this pawn to make a queen, even though it's not possible. But black is going for the smallest possible. But black has the smallest possible chance of pushing the pawn. And rook a6, and this pawn is going to collapse. Now king g6, and rook takes pawn. Now h5, trying to weaken this pawn, and maybe try to push this pawn. White checks the king first. The king goes to the corner and trades pawns. And white went d5. d5 is a good move, but if I were playing white, then I'd go rook a2, threatening rook h2 checkmate, because low-rated players under 1000 might not find these kind of mates. So that's why I'd go rook a2. But d5 is also decent. Now black played bishop b5, defending the d6 square. Bishop d4. And that's a blunder because of bishop takes, and rook takes bishop. White could still win this, but it's much harder to win it now. So d6, rook f8, d7, g4. And if I were, normally black would go rook d8, blocking the pawn, and then black could run the king here faster, and then take this pawn and then draw the game. But black didn't do that, so I can easily win this game now because of going g4. So white queens takes, king h4, rook h4 check, king g5. Now what white needs to do is bring the king closer. So White can take this pawn with the king and the rook. So rook g8 check, king f5, king g2, king f4. Good stuff here. Good stuff happening. Rook f8 check, king g5. Now white should just bring the king. Now this because if now black can't defend his pawn at all. But rook g8 check is just repeating moves. But now king g3, so it's a white can win this pawn. Now white has to do king and rook checkmate on black. What white should be doing is cutting the king off. No, don't go there. Go rook e4, so the king can't go to e5. But okay, white still went rook e4, king e5. Now go king e3. No, I mean king c4 also works, but it's a bit longer. Now king f5, king d5, cutting the e6 square off. King f6, rook e4, good move. King f5. Now go king d4, good. King f6, rook e5, cutting the king off more. King g6, king e4, king f6, king f4, bringing the king closer. Good job. Now king f7, king f5, king g7. Okay, white should just keep in front, try to cut the king off with this move, but okay. And black went king f7, king f5. At this point, they're just repeating moves. Don't check the king. You need to cut the king off, but black made it easier for white. No. Okay, now you should go rook f7. Because if rook f7, king h8, now king g6, and here, and white can just do a waiting move and checkmate. But instead, white played king g6 and king f8. Rook c7. Don't go rook c7. Go king f6. Now the king can just run. And white is not doing anything but checking the king. And here they drew the game. So if you want to learn the king and rook checkmate, click on the related shorts. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe to my channel because it helps other people become better at chess for free.